If you're tired of waking up unmotivated, it is time you download the Mindset Daily Motivation app and start your day with new motivational alarms. Let's go!
How do you learn the art of the sit down?
Be a good listener. Don't run your mouth. Don't be the first to, present you. Just be a good listener. Let the other guy make a mistake. Think, hard. Be prepared going in.
And it's true on the street, and I think it's true in real life too, I've seen.
I don't ask people how they are. I make a guess as to how they are based on what I'm seeing, because that tells them right away, I'm dialing into you. Our capacity to hear words exceeds the amount of information we can keep in our head, but the amount of information in your tone of voice is going to tell me more than the words are. So how I learned to listen was the words are the starting point, but the tone of voice and the body language and what's the alignment. And then if there's a shift in the alignment in that moment, to look for it and then anticipate.
There's sometimes you could be in a meeting and you could be the smartest guy in the room and you don't want to let anybody know that. Let everybody talk, let everybody think they're smarter than you, but you really know what's going on. There's other times when you're in the room, you could be the least smartest guy in the room, but you got to make them think that you're smarter than them. And if you can master that technique, then you can get just about anything you want in any negotiation.
Well, for me, to negotiate is to collaborate and find a better outcome. Never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. What do you really want from the person? What are they like?
Whenever I went into a meeting like this, I tried to learn the personality, the character of the person I was up against. John Gotti, for instance. You can never let John Gotti think that you won an argument. His ego wouldn't allow it. So you had to figure out a way to outsmart him to make him think he won, but you actually got what you want. And when you can master that art, you'll do pretty good. And whatever I did in my whole life, I was able to apply that to business and life now.
Don't try to fix a bad employer any more than you try to fix a bad significant other. There's somebody out there better for you.
You don't know how much your boss knows about the work you do, especially if you're one of those people who does your work quietly and well and sort of invisibly. And that's even worse if you're agreeable so that other people can take advantage of your work and pretend it's theirs. So the first thing you might want to do is make sure that your boss actually knows what you do without being chest thumping about it. And then you might say what it is that you could offer if you were offered additional opportunity. You have to make a case for what it is that's in it for him too, and also, or her, and also ensure that if he has to go make a case to his superior, that he's completely armed and ready to do that. You can have what you want, but you have to specify what it is.
Do you miss the mob lifestyle?
I'd be lying if I say I didn't at times, but people ask me all the time, they say, do you miss the money? Do you miss the power and all of that? To a degree. Look, it's great when you have anything you can want at your disposal because you got enough money to take care of it. I had my own jet plane, I had a Lear 25A, I had a Bell helicopter, I had a couple of big automobile agencies that I owned, so I drove whatever car I want, and basically had homes all over the country. So yeah, that's nice. But what I really miss? I miss the camaraderie that we had with the guys. What was so attractive to me about that life is, hey, when you come in, it's a brotherhood. Don't ever worry about your wife, your daughter, your sister. We got their backs wherever you go. If somebody hurts you, we got somebody to back you up. That's very powerful, very, very powerful. And I miss that kind of camaraderie that I had. So, I also nice, going into the back room. I want to tell you this, for those of you that saw Goodfellas, Henry Hill, he never walked in through the back kitchen of the Copacabana, I can tell you that now. But I did many times, first with my dad and then later on with myself. It's nice to go in and get a ringside table and be treated that way. So to say I didn't miss it, I'd be lying.
How do you learn the art of the sit down then? Because that's part politics, like part journalism. Sounds like some of the interviews I've had when I was running to be mayor. Like they're trying to trip you up. If you say the wrong one thing, that's the thing that'll kill you. Like how do you learn how to negotiate that?
A lot of it is experience. You make mistakes in the beginning, but I was fortunate. I had my dad, who schooled me well, and who taught me basically how to conduct myself in these things. And one thing, Brian, the major thing my dad taught me that has worked for me my entire life, and in a serious way, I'll get into it, is be a good listener. Don't run your mouth. Don't be the first to, present you. Just be a good listener. Let the other guy make a mistake. Think, hard. Be prepared going in. And for me, I became a major target of law enforcement. Major target. They never got me on tape saying anything wrong. Never. There was one undercover operation they had me on. They had 83 tape recordings on me. It was this whole thing with Don King and Al Sharpton. They couldn't use one of them because I never made a mistake on the tape because I was always listening. I was careful how I spoke. And I credit my father in listening to him. Okay, I understand it, Dad. So you got to be careful who you talk to. Same thing when you sit down. Let the guy present himself. I always say this too. You go into a meeting, sometimes you're the smartest guy in the room, but you don't want anybody to know it. Let them think you're a dummy, you don't know anything. And they're yapping away, right? It's a big advantage. There's other times when you're not the smartest guy in the room, but if you keep your mouth shut, nobody knows that. They don't know it. So you let them talk, commit themselves. By the time they're finished, then you can become the smartest guy in the room because they told you everything, Here's the thing, it's all about the media, it's all about entertainment. I mean, look, when The Godfather came out, guys on the street were acting different because it elevated the persona of guys on the street in a big way. I'm telling you, I witnessed it, I watched it. All of these movies, I speak to young kids. Michael, come on, man. You had the cars, you had the money, you had all the women, you had people catering to you all the time. I said, I know. That was Goodfellas, right? Did you watch the second half of the movie? Who got killed, who lost everything, who went to jail? They don't see that. They only see the money, the power, and that's an aphrodisiac to people. Brian, when I first started speaking, I was pretty well known in New York. We had a hot name. Maybe on the West Coast, Florida, yes, because where I got indicted there too. In the Midwest, Texas, nobody knew who I was. They put on a marquee, the mob guy is going to be there, standing room only. People are interested in the lifestyle. It's all the media, Hollywood, entertainment, the news. I mean, John Gotti, come on. How many people wanted to be John Gotti? How many people wanted to be Michael Corleone, Vito Corleone? It's the media.
Because they see the upside, but they don't see what comes.
They don't see it, and they don't pay attention to it.
You actually had a lot of things going on you had stuff going on with dealerships, you own all these different things with cars.
Patrick, I bought a Mazda agency when you couldn't give a Mazda away.
I remember reading
because
that.
Because the Wankel engines were exploding, you couldn't give one away. And I built that into the biggest agency on Long Island as far as Mazda was concerned. And it was a lot of work, and I had to do things differently, but I was able to build it. I think I had a head for business, I had a knack for it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the smartest business guy around because there's a lot of things in business I don't enjoy doing. But there were certain talents that I had that worked well for me. And I always tell people this, when you're in business, I don't think it's a good thing to micromanage because nobody can do everything good. But here's the deal, do what you do best and delegate the rest. And then be a good watcher of these people. Make sure you get the most out of them. That's how you do it.
You can't hang out with the wrong people and be accountable to the wrong people, continue to do the wrong things and think it's going to end up okay. It's the definition of insanity, keep doing the same wrong thing, think you're going to have a different outcome. So, look, in this life I have found out, number one, we are who we hang out with. We're judged by the people we surround ourselves with and who we are accountable to. When I was on the street, I was accountable to my oath, to my boss. I was a criminal. Every day of my life on the street, I'm violating the laws of God and the laws of man, because that's who I was accountable to. Now, with the grace of God, I've been able to, transform that part of my life. I'm accountable to God, to my wife, to my children, to people that trust me, so I'm on the right path. I try to stay on it, but remember this, it's what I tell these guys too. You can take the boy out of Brooklyn. Can't always take Brooklyn out of the boy. I have the same instincts that I've had. They don't go away. Sometimes I want to deal with things the wrong way, but I catch myself, as much as I can. But this is a tough life to navigate.
It's a violent life at times. You're part of the life, you're part of the violence. There's no question about it. But murder in that life was taken very seriously.
It was taken
very seriously. You couldn't just go around rampant killing people. I don't like this guy, I want to kill him. You know, a made guy had a lot of respect. And if that guy was in trouble, first of all, the only one that can order a murder was the boss. He had to sanction it. You couldn't do it without his okay.
Not even a made man or a capo, it has to be a boss.
It has to be the boss. And there was a lot of discussion about it. It wasn't that, hey, this guy's got to go, okay, go get him tomorrow, that's the end of that. No, it was taken very, very seriously because remember, the life is built on respect. When you earn your stripes and you come into that life, you're a respected guy. So if something you did wrong, well, they're going to make sure it was wrong. And then if you violate the oath, you know, you're going to pay the consequences. But it was something taken very seriously. You know, a lot of people think that we just went around and random killing people and killing
that's what the
people on
movies
the
tell you,
street.
though. The
That's
movies
what the
make it seem like that, yeah.
I mean, I certainly didn't witness that in my lifestyle.
You didn't witness that in your life?
Not random stuff.
Oh,
like that,
random,
no.
random.
Yeah, it was taken very seriously.
Would you live the life all over again?
Now, because I'm a guy of faith now, and I've turned my life around, I can never go back to that because I know that I did a lot of things that I regret during that time. But take that away, would I want to go back and at least have that experience again? I'm being honest, and I might get ridiculed for this, but I think I might. To have the experience, because look, you know, I learned things in that life that were invaluable to me throughout my life. And if you take away the bad stuff and just put me back in that environment around my guys and some of the, I think I might, Patrick. And again, I hope I'm explaining this right, because
You're going to have 50,000 young kids right now go become mobsters.
No,
You got to say the right way.
No, I don't want that.
Next thing you know, Valuetainment produced 22,000 new mobsters in the world.
No. Let me make that clear.
Let's give the disclaimer as well.
Let me make that clear. I said it's an evil life. I said you're selfish if you put your family through that. You're going to end up in prison or dead, one of the two. Government's got it all. And it's morally wrong. I mean, there's no question about it. But look, there was some perks in that life, you know, that I enjoyed. I got to be honest with you. Now, the price you pay as a result of the short time that you're going to have those perks is terrible because you're devastated for the rest of your life. So it doesn't make sense. I speak to a lot of young kids. I speak to gangbangers. I go into detention halls. I have an influence over them, obviously. And I tell them straight out, you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life or you're going to die. It's one of the two things. And they'll say to me, but Michael, you know, I saw you in Goodfellas and they had the money, they had the power, they had the girls. I said, yeah, but did you watch the whole movie or did you just stop in the middle? I said, who got killed, who went to jail, who became an informant, whose wife left them, whose kids suffered? Why don't you see that part? And you know what, they don't. They only focus on it, they don't realize it's very short-lived. And that in the end, you're going down. And so please, anybody listening, parent, don't get upset with me. I speak to these kids and I tell them the truth. It's a bad life. Don't ever pursue it. Don't ever make the mistakes that I did.
Now, most people think you do one or the other. Hey, how are your kids? Where'd you go to school? What do your kids do? Are your kids in Little League? The small talk that's people, this common ground thing, which is, it's for C players. Common ground, in my opinion, was designed initially like, if we got similar common ground, then ideally you understand where I'm coming from. But in point of fact, it's highly inefficient. Look at your siblings. How much more common ground could you possibly have than with the people you grew up with? Talk about common ground in geography, ethnicity, diet, religion, as much as possible. And how many family gatherings around holidays or screaming matches? That's what common ground will get you. But what people really want to know is, do you understand what my problems are? Do you understand my perspective? Do you understand where I'm coming from? So if I dial in to start out understanding and feel you out, and I'm going to say, seems like this whole process has frustrated you. Seems like there's a reason that you're struggling with this. You know, I'm taking emotionally intelligent, educated guesses, and I'm listening. Now that gets me into an information gathering process and relationship building process simultaneously, instead of one and then the other, which is highly inefficient, which is why this indirect route ends up being much faster. I'll look at you and I say, look, it seems like you're having a good day. If you look like you're having a good day, I don't ask people how they are. I make a guess as to how they are based on what I'm seeing, because that tells them right away, I'm dialing into you. Our capacity to hear words exceeds the amount of information we can keep in our head, but the amount of information in your tone of voice is going to tell me more than the words are. So how I learned to listen was the words are the starting point, but the tone of voice and the body language and what's the alignment. And then if there's a shift in the alignment in that moment, to look for it and then anticipate. I know now that you as a human being, you in general terms, the negativity is going to cloud your thinking more than anything else. So I'm listening for those negatives. And from the hotline, and now what we do in a Black Swan method, how do I deactivate those negatives to clear your head or even anticipate them? So it's applied emotional intelligence. And then why listen? Because what we would call in hostage negotiation a change of behavior, and in business negotiation or personal interactions, you changing your mind as to the best outcome is going to come much more quickly and effectively and in a lasting way than if I talked you into it or if I misled you. I want whatever agreement we come to be durable, to last, without me having to come back to you daily to see where we are. And that's what listening is really about, understanding the nuances of what's now backed up by neuroscience and what people in hostage negotiation and you as a practitioner in the field of human nature for years came to learn was the reality of how human beings think and how they react. You're anticipating, you're paying really close attention, you're understanding how the person is wired, and you're understanding what sort of neurochemical changes take place when you feel understood. I stand up in front of a group of business people on a regular basis, and I'll say to them, how much time do you have for somebody who's not listening to you? And they don't have any time for it. Now, they'll test them a little bit, they'll interact shortly, but somebody's only pitching or somebody's only got answers. It doesn't even matter how good those answers are, because if somebody's not listening, at some point in time, they're going to need an adjustment. And if they're not listening, they're not going to make that adjustment. Salesperson, counterpart of any kind, you come up to me with the perfect answer. Maybe you got 4 perfect answers. You're most interested in giving me your answers as opposed to hearing me out first. I know at some point in time you're not going to have a perfect answer. And if you haven't been listening, you're not going to catch it, and we're going to have some real problems. So you start showing how you listen intermittently, proactively, then it's really going to accelerate our conversation. And I know that when there's a problem, you're going to catch it, instead of me having to come back to you after the problems become very damaging. It's about anticipating and staying ahead of the game. Like any other relationship, like a personal relationship, business relationship, close relationship, significant other. You got to get a fit. And my favorite question actually is to ask in job interviews, every job interview and every annual review. Taught to me by a friend of mine who's Tom McCabe, extraordinarily successful guy, CEO of an international bank. We talked about this extensively. We went to high school together. His question is, how can I be guaranteed to be involved in projects that are critical to the strategic future of this organization? And I said before, the calibrated question is designed to trigger thought. That question immediately changes their perspective of you when you ask it. Like you're telling them, look, I want to advance everybody's life here. I want to play in a big game. I want to be with the people that are at the highest levels of performance in your company, and I want to move everybody forward with that one question. And it completely changes the outcome, because then it's not just what your skill set is for this particular job. Maybe they got a job for you in a mailroom. but you want to be the head of the division. And you want to know how to get there, and you want to get there by succeeding and taking everybody with you. Now, that's a game-changing conversation. That's a completely different conversation. Maybe they thought they were bringing somebody in to push a mail cart around, and now you're somebody that says, yeah, not only will I do the little jobs to learn this from the bottom up, but I want to make everybody's life better. I want to help everybody succeed. Now I'm willing to learn. I'm coachable. Now it's a different conversation. One of the things that I loved, that I learned from being a hostage negotiator, is how to negotiate without a net. And my Harvard brothers and sisters would call that BAT now. What's the best alternative to negotiated agreement? And that's so that you release yourself of fears, that you don't take yourself hostage. You can go in with no alternative and have enough faith in a process to just be engaged, to be curious, to listen, to discover the better outcome. And so the BAT idea, or the alternatives idea, is a good starting point if you feel like you're taking yourself hostage. But what it really is it's to create this psychological construct so that you don't freeze up, so that you don't take yourself hostage. And as hostage negotiators, we just never, theoretically, we never had a BAT. You got to make the deal. You got to work it out. And you kind of get used to walking that tightrope without a net, and then it's no big deal. But the principle to begin with is how to not take yourself hostage. And that's a brilliant principle to start with.
And people are scared of this partly because they don't want to reveal to themselves what they actually want, because they might betray themselves or be betrayed by the world. And partly because they're afraid of the responsibility and they don't have enough faith. But it's impossible to hit a target that you don't aim at. Work through the blind spots in their vision, let's say, and the knots in their life that might be interfering with their desire to be a diamond, because people will also misconstrue that. They'll think, well, I don't want to work too hard. It's like, you're not thinking about the work properly if that's your attitude. Because first of all, if you love what you're doing, you might really want to work hard. And if you don't love it, that means you don't really see the point. You don't see the end goal. You don't see the value in it. And then, maybe you do see the value, but you're lazy and undisciplined. And maybe you have your rationales for that too. And so all that needs to be worked through. Because I do think that, first of all, most of the meaning in people's lives comes from the adoption of voluntary responsibility. And most people do actually want to be diamonds, but they're afraid of the work, and they're also afraid that it's going to be imposed on them, right? And they're going to be forced into it. And they don't have a vision of their own. And so one of the things that everyone who's listening and watching might want to understand is that before you go into a job interview, you might want to have done some serious thinking about just exactly why it is that you want this job. And if the answer is, well, I need to pay next month's rent, fair enough, but that is not a good enough reason. That's not a vision for your life. And that's not the sort of vision that's going to make you a compelling interviewee, because you're shallow, right? You haven't thought through why it is that you're going to do what you're doing.
Money buys a lot of loyalty in business. People don't want to disrupt that. And it's true on the street. I think it's true in real life too. In that world, everything is very technical. For instance, rules of a sit down. Let's make you and I are made guys. We're having an argument. You're lying through your teeth. Lying, every other word is a lie. If I call you a liar, I lose the argument automatically. If I get upset with you and lose my temper, I lose the argument automatically. You got to know how to keep your mouth shut. You got to be able to outsmart that person, right? And don't let him make you fall into a trap. Because a lot of times, if an old timer was wrong, he's trying to get you into a trap. So on technicalities, you lose.
I learned so many things. As far as navigating that life, my dad taught me, always be, don't ever be quick to judge somebody. Don't ever be quick to, condemn somebody. He told me how to be a good listener. He taught me, he said to me, Michael, and this was very valuable in that life. He said, if you and I committed a crime, we did it together. He said, 1 minute after we commit the crime, if you talk to me about it, I'm going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, there's no reason to ever repeat anything that you did the wrong way. He said, look at every telephone as a cop. Don't speak on the phone. You know, be careful. So he taught me so many things that they seem like little things, but they were major in that life. You know, I never aspired to be a mob guy. That wasn't what I wanted. I mean, I always say, you know, I was going to be a doctor. I mean, I had a real interest in that. I was an athlete. But, you know, I grew up with my father, who was a very high-profile guy in the 60s. And I love my dad very much. And he went through several trials in the 60s until finally he got convicted on a major federal case and sentenced to 50 years in prison. And, you know, I needed to help him out because he said to me, Mike, I'm framed. You know, they said that he ordered a series of bank robberies throughout the country. He said, Mike, I'm not a bank robber. It's not true. The government framed me. And I believed him. And he saw my involvement in his life as a way to help him out. So he proposed me for membership. It's not something that I would have done anything he wanted me to do. It's okay, Dad, you want me to become a member? I'll become a member. It's not like, oh, I wanted it. This is what he wanted for me. Once I got in, I said, hey, I'm going to be the best possible mob guy I can be. And I tried to use the life as best I could to benefit me in business. And that's how I looked at it. You know, so things like that in the street are very valuable. And I took those things with me, you know, in my life today, you know. I try to give people respect. You know, it doesn't matter who they are. Another thing my dad taught me, Brian, he said, always be respectful to the little guy. Now, he didn't mean the little guy to be offensive. He just meant, you know, give respect to the little guy, the waiter, take good care of him, the guy at a valet park, take care of him.
Does that apply to the real world? Look, when people are making money with you, they're happy. I mean, that's the way it is, you know, they're happy. I mean, money buys a lot of loyalty in business, you know, people don't want to disrupt that. And it's true on the street, and I think it's true in real life too.
I had a lot of legitimate businesses going. I had 2 car dealerships, I had a number of restaurants that I had opened at the time, I had a leasing company, I had a production company in Southern California, in Hollywood. So I had a lot of things going, so I used some of that money to, you know, to have a legitimate operation and income. Let me tell you one thing about, you know, mob guys, they're pretty resourceful. You know, I'm asked all the time, you know, is the mob still in existence? The answer is yes. It's not the same as it was during my time, but I wouldn't count these guys out. They're not going away in my lifetime, that's for sure.
You know, in that world, everything is very technical. They make a mountain out of a molehill. Well, in my world, I mean, you can pay serious consequences. You can't be disrespectful in that life, Patrick. You know, 2 made guys, 2 guys that actually took the oath. You can never disrespect one another, never. I mean, you know, they were...
2 made guys could never disrespect
never
one another?
Disrespect.
So what does disrespect mean?
Calling a guy a name, calling him a liar, raising your voice to him.
Really?
Yeah.
A made guy cannot to a made guy?
No. That's a major, because the life allegedly is built on respect. So you can never disrespect anybody. You can never outwardly do it. Like, I'll be honest with you, I had a meeting with another made guy once, and he's trying to get involved in the gas business, and I'm trying to keep him out. He was a guy from my own family, but he was trying to make a deal with Gotti to bring them into the business, and I didn't want him. So I said, can I talk to you a minute? And this guy's doing life in prison right now. So we go in the other room, we get in the other room, I called him every name in the sun. You're a liar, you're this, you're that. When we walk out, we're shaking hands, you're the best guy in the world. But I wouldn't let anybody see it, because now if he told anybody I called him that, I'd call him a liar. So they had to believe me, you know what I mean? The same way they had to believe him. So he would never try to challenge that. But no, in that life, you can never be disrespectful to one another, no matter what it is. You had to just bite your tongue and try to outsmart the guy. When I'm able to, I do my due diligence. I want to know the personality, the character of the people I'm in with. But there's times when I'll test somebody, I'll throw out a word or 2 that I know is false, and I'll see how he responds. If he wants to make me think I know what I'm talking about, I'll say something that has nothing to do with anything, or is totally absurd, and we'll see how they answer. And sometimes they'll give you an answer, and you can start to, you know, they'll indicate to you what kind of personality they are and really what you have. The main thing is just let people talk first. Try to get as much out of them as you possibly can. And then you can kind of figure it out. Like with Gotti, a couple of times I had to sit down with him. I knew that he could never believe that I was winning. So in the midst of the argument, I had to figure out what he really wanted and how I can get what I want, letting him think that he got what he wanted. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but you know, it's all about how you carry yourself. It really is. But you got to be prepared. There's sometimes you could be in the meeting and you could be the smartest guy in the room, And you don't want to let anybody know that. Let everybody talk, let everybody think they're smarter than you, but you really know what's going on. There's other times when you're in the room, you could be the least smartest guy in the room, but you got to make them think that you're smarter than them. And if you can master that technique, then you can get just about anything you want in any negotiation. You know, I learned that whenever I went into a meeting like this, I tried to learn the personality, the character of the person I was up against. John Gotti, for instance. You can never let John Gotti think that you won an argument. His ego wouldn't allow it. So you had to figure out a way to outsmart him to make him think he won, but you actually got what you want. And when you can master that art, you'll do pretty good. And you know, whatever I did in my whole life, I was able to apply that to business in life now.